Before we begin, here's how to earn continuing professional education credit for attending this session. Gain valuable insights by attending the podcast, then complete the assessment test to download your certificate. To do this, follow these simple steps. Click on the link in your description to access the session. Create a free account and attend the podcast. After the podcast, take the assessment test and download your certificate. It's easy, and it's free. We highly recommend checking out our subscription.
There's the element of keeping transparency in running your firm. Do you also incorporate that into your pricing strategy when somebody comes to you for a tax return or something? Do you kind of like have like a menu pricing, like something like what all Scott had? Do you have something like that as well in that?
Yeah, I list well, my minimums pretty much are listed on my website, and I try to make it to where potential clients have multiple spots where they can see the pricing, because I know pricing is very important to people, and getting the best deal possible, or does it fit in the budget? And so my pricing is relatively high, and so I know uh, the average person probably won't pay the fees that I'm charging for tax returns. And so uh, if they need to see the pricing before they get to me, essentially. That's the goal. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, they usually have sticker shock and they're like, yeah, I can't do this. So, but most of the time they see the pricing. And so when I give them the price, it's already in the back of their head. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that. Let's do it. So it's really creates like a high conversion rate in that case. So it's really maximizes my time and efficiency, and it doesn't, you know, the client or the potential client probably values it because they know they're going in with an expectation of what to pay. Their time isn't wasted because they're not shocked by the price. And
Welcome to another episode of your favorite podcast. We're trying to figure out with Saul. Today, we have an incredible guest, Logan Graf. Logan is not only a CPA firm owner, but also a YouTube content creator and the founder of Counter, a revolutionary community for accounting firm owners. His journey is in scaling a profitable firm in just 3 years, his transparent pricing strategies, and his innovative approach to firm management make him the perfect person to discuss what it takes to build a thriving firm while keeping the tax season stress free. Welcome, Logan, to the podcast.
hey, Saul, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to have you, and welcome to all our viewers. If you have any questions for Logan, please put those in comments or in on LinkedIn or on YouTube. But if you're looking for CPE credits for this podcast and you want to join us for future CPE approved podcasts on MyCPE One, you can do that at my-cpe.com/podcast. And lastly, you can also listen to the podcast on the go by downloading the MyCPE One mobile app, which is available on the App Store for the iOS users and the Play Store for the Android users. Now, let's get down to business. Logan, you had quite the journey, building your firm from the ground up and now leading Counter, a community aimed at challenging traditional accounting norms. So let's start at the beginning. Uh, One of the most talked about aspects about your firm is the transparency, especially with the pricing and service packages. So why is transparency such a critical element in building your firm?
Yeah, I think, you know, starting my firm at the very start, I wanted to be transparent in pricing and how I worked. And I found that in previous firms that I had worked for, pricing wasn't disclosed in any way.
Mhm.
And it always created this tension of meeting, let's say when you're doing new client meetings, uh,
Yep.
you get to the price point, the fee, and it just completely shocks them. And they're like, yeah, this is a no-go. And so I always wanted to prevent that. And, something that I don't see often, but I see it every once in a while is where firms will disclose their price or maybe like a range of pricing or like a minimum for pricing, which is great because these days, you try to subscribe to something, you know the pricing, what it's going to be. You instantly look, you go to a website, you want to buy something or purchase a service or an app, software. You go to the pricing and the pricing's there, and you know what to expect automatically. And then I think a lot of even though it's not like a product that we're selling, but we're selling, our services and our expertise. But I think we can at least be able to give an estimate or an upfront minimum of our pricing to prevent a bunch of bad fits from ever getting in front of you, and that saves everybody time. You don't want to
Yeah,
hide that pricing from people because you don't want to get through this whole long sales process just for them to bounce on pricing when that could have been disclosed at the very start.
no, absolutely. And you mentioned about, you're right, wherever we go, whether it's going to a website to buy a product or anything, and we have a price there, there's something there. But with the price, there's also the expectation element, because it's at the end of the day, whenever you're pricing something, there is also a client expectation that you're taking into consideration.
Yeah.
And
And I may have misunderstood your question. Do you mean transparency in how I run my firm?
no, yeah, yes.
Okay, let's back it up. So I'm very transparent with running my firm, and I've kind of been transparent even before I started my firm.
Okay.
Sorry for that miscommunication there. But anyway,
Uh,
so yeah, before I started my firm, I was active on Twitter, now X. Back in 2019, I created an account to be kind of uh, to interact with other tax professionals just on Twitter. I was like, oh, there seems like there's other professionals here talking about the tax laws. It was 2019, so there was a new tax law implemented, and we're like, how does this work? And so I was getting all this valuable information from other tax professionals on how stuff works. And so I would basically tweet sometimes about tax law, but a lot about the industry, the accounting industry, like public accounting specifically. Like, all right, here's what I see is kind of wrong with the industry, and here's kind of why I think this is not okay. And so basically, I would, like any millennial, basically question everything. Like, why does it have to be this way? Why do we have deadlines at 4:15 and 3:15? Why do we do all this work between January and April? Uh, why? So I would kind of put that out there, and the account started to gain traction and gained a good amount of followers over the first couple of years or so. And then when I started a firm, I started to really tweet more about how I'm running my firm. Like, oh, this is how I'm doing this, and this. And then so just a background, I launched my firm in 2020, and then in 2022, I I started a YouTube channel, and I remember seeing on YouTube all these videos of these uh, professionals in different industries. Like one was about like videography, and this guy was posting is like, here's how much money I made last year. And then I probably watched a very similar video from another YouTuber that was in a different industry, and I was like, I don't think I've seen any of that type of videos for accountants. Or at least I haven't seen it. Maybe it's out there, but I haven't come across it on YouTube. And so I was like, I'm gonna do that because I was a
Yeah.
new YouTube channel, and I was trying to find my way in what videos that I wanted to make. I was kind of leaning towards tax content and kind of I call it POV, point of view, from a firm owner perspective type of videos, vlogs, kind of corny stuff. But so I was like, I think I'm gonna create uh, a financial review of how much money my firm made over the past previous years, 2021. And so that was my first full year. So you can kind of get a feel for uh, the first full year of a firm activity, and just to share it out and put it out there. And I was like, it really didn't hit me at first, like the emotional or mental aspect of actually doing that, disclosing how much money you make. until my wife was like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Because that seems pretty crazy." And I was like, "Is it? Oh shoot, is this crazy?" And I was like, I don't have anything to lose. I don't have any shame right now. I'm pretty, it's hard for me to get embarrassed and just from my upbringing. And so if people
Yeah.
dog on how much money I make, okay, I don't care. It's my first full year of firm ownership, business ownership. I don't care what they say. Let's just go for it. And so I pushed that video out there and I'm pretty honest with all the numbers. I'm not trying to make myself look good or like beef up some numbers, reduce expenses or anything. It's all pretty honest out there and it's open. And so that video in the first hour after I published it got more views, just that video, than all of the other views on my other videos combined. I was like, okay, this is a clearly a unique thing. And so
Absolutely.
I was like, I think this is where the direction of my YouTube channel needs to go now. It's just kind of about how I run a firm, essentially, and the journey of running a firm and why I do things and also talk about the industry itself. I talk a lot about CPAs. I'm a CPA. Talk about, you know, just what the industry is facing along with how I run my firm. And so that kind of led to a lot of unique opportunities to where I get asked on podcasts like this one or, speak at conferences. And
Yeah.
uh, I think I try to run my business not as a traditional accounting firm. I
Mhm.
think accountants make really bad business owners, no offense, but I've just seen it over and over, and I think that's kind of why we're at the spot we are now with the industry, is because it's like a character defect of accountants. We were just discussing this in our book club encounter yesterday. Like we want to solve problems, and so we'll kind of do anything it takes to solve a problem if it means we can solve that problem. And I think a lot of accountants, that's just in our nature. We want to solve those problems, but really we're creating problems for ourselves in our firm. So yeah, that's kind of the big, quick, intro into all this transparency.
Yep, absolutely. In fact, you mentioned that you started your firm in 2020. Was it before the pandemic got really serious or during when
It was
things had started?
probably, yeah, it was like August 2020. So it was probably when like things were not looking good. It's like
Yeah.
the pandemic was just ramping up at that point, I feel like,
Yeah.
with all the shutdowns and everything. And so it was kind of a interesting spot. It was a good opportunity to be virtual. I was like, I'm going to start as a virtual CPA firm, but it was also like, man, is the world going to be around next year? Or like, is the economy going to be destroyed? Like, I had those kind of dark thoughts, like the worst case scenarios, because you're like, I just started a business and now everybody can't make money, but it ended up being okay.
Yeah, I mean, like it's clearly, like the result is right in front of all of us. But you know, I guess it's all about an opportunity, and you sometimes don't realize that it's right in front of you until you actually are to do it. Like if you hadn't taken that bold move of beating the norms and actually publishing about how much you made in that year to everybody for everybody to know, that itself created that uniqueness. Because also the timing, because it's the pandemic, businesses are failing, people are not able to sustain, and then you are showing that thing to people that, hey, it's possible. I started
Hmm.
something during the pandemic and this is what I made. So I guess that kind of like pushed and interested a lot of people to know more. And also for the fact that you run your transparency aspect of your firm, wherein you keep everything very transparent. That's something that I think a lot of people need to adopt, because it's lesser headache. It's lesser stress for you to remember, rather than that everything is what you see is what you get kind of thing. you know
Hmm. Hmm.
but so and we're going to just like jump back into like, I'm just going to probably take a little bit of your time. If you could tell me a little bit about before you became a CPA, where, like, what made you, because you belong to that, we all belong to that particular generation where accounting is not really a profession that people really look forward to. And so was CPA really your first thought when you were evaluating career options, or
Mm,
was it something else?
hmm Yeah, so this is gonna sound very nerdy, but in like high school, I I was taking like a business track of different classes because I always wanted to be in business, like run a business, do something around with businesses and ownership and stuff like that. I've always wanted to do that. Had a lawn mowing business growing up, sold cookies with my friends in high school to generate income. I always loved creating stuff, so I always kind of had uh, just in the back of my mind, I always wanted to invent something or be a business owner. But then in high school, I took an accounting class randomly because it was part of the business track or whatever. And I was like, this is probably good to know for business ownership, accounting. Makes sense. Okay, I'll take it. And I ended up falling in love with accounting during that semester because I was like, this is actually really cool. The balance sheet is really cool and how things kind of like always make sense in a way. And it's a puzzle and everything. And my
Yeah.
teacher recognized that in me, and she's like, "Do you want to join the accounting team?" I was like, "What?" Uh, there's an accounting team. So there's like this UIL. I don't know what UIL stands for. I forgot, but it's basically an academic competition between other schools, essentially. And there's actually like an accounting competition in a way where basically you just go to a school on a Saturday morning and take an accounting test against other kids. So I did that for a semester, would drive around and I don't know how many tests there were. There's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 different tests, but so weird. I don't know, but you basically take an accounting test and different multiple choice questions and uh, you get a score at the end and you get the best place I ever got was third place, which I'm really surprised that I even placed one time. There's probably like 7 kids in the room, so it probably wasn't that much that hard to do. But I just loved accounting, I guess, and it made me realize like, okay, there's accounting in college, like there's accounting majors in college. What's that like? Oh, there's a CPA. So when I actually go to college, like you learn that you can take a certain amount of courses, get a master's degree, get a certain amount of hours to be eligible to take the CPA and become a CPA. So it's like, they actually make decent money, it seems like. And it seems like they're the profession's in a good shape. You're always going to need accountants essentially. So I was like, this is a safe bet because I don't really take risks. That may sound surprising, but I take very calculated risks where I know there's a high percentage chance that I'm going to succeed. So uh, I was like, I'm going to do accounting in college, and I continued to love the accounting courses, except the audit side. I was mainly geared towards the tax side, so I focused on tax, but yeah, took all the accounting classes, took graduate classes in accounting, interned at a regional level firm, graduated, went to work back with that firm that I internshipped at, worked there for about a couple of years, then worked for a smaller firm, about 7 people for about a couple of years, then worked for even like a even smaller firm, and probably call it a micro firm. And then that firm is where I bought a bunch of clients from.
Do you want to earn CPE credit? Take this course of MyCPE ONE to earn free credit. Click the link in the description to get started.
Oh, nice, nice. In fact, when you're talking about how what the jobs that you used to do in high school, it actually reminds me about my conversation with this other gentleman called Scott Scarano,
Hmm.
who's also okay rapper. You know,
Hmm.
I I was discussing with him during his podcast, and he talked also about his pricing structure. He has got something called a menu pricing. Like he's actually got like clear pricing listed out. This is what you want to do. These are the things that you have. This is how much you get charged. Straightforward, transparent. This is what it is. right? And and he says that he got that idea from his history, because when he was in high school, he again was lawn mowing, and he actually came up with a menu pricing in the
Mm,
lawn mowing. Because, depending on the yard size and everything, he had got different menu pricings already set out. So he, the his foundation of business, like you said, like you were interested in business, but you weren't
hmm
really going into a business owner. But I guess that journey of yours, wherein you started at a very young level, you were already grasping those foundational knowledges of incomes, expenses, profits, efforts, time involved, and everything. So that kind of formed those foundational stones for you unknowingly, and then accounting just came as a beautiful gateway through which you were able to create connections between incomes and expenses and put it on a piece of paper and find out the difference, which is
hmm
profit.
hmm Yeah,
So
it's so fun.
yeah, so fun, um, it is fun, it's really fun. Sometimes you don't realize what you're doing, but many years later, when you got that wisdom, you realize that, oh, it was because of that
Mm,
this is we are today.
yep.
But you know uh there's the element of keeping transparency in running your firm. Do you also incorporate that into your pricing strategy when somebody comes to you for a tax return or something? Do you kind of like have like a menu pricing, like something like what also Scott had? Do you have something like that as well in that?
Yeah, I list all, well, my minimums pretty much are listed on my website, and I try to make it to where potential clients have multiple spots where they can see the pricing, because I know pricing is very important to people, and getting the best deal possible, or it does it fit in the budget. And so my pricing is relatively high, and so I know uh, the average person probably won't pay the fees that I'm charging for tax returns. And
Mhm.
so, uh, if they need to see the pricing before they get to me, essentially. That's the goal. Sometimes they don't. And when they don't, they usually have sticker shock and they're like, yeah, I can't do this. So, but most of the time they see the pricing. And so when I give them the price, it's already in the back of their head. And you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I know that. Let's do it. So it's really creates like a high conversion rate in that case. So it's really maximizes my time and efficiency, and it doesn't, you know, the client or the potential client probably values it because they know they're going in with an expectation of what to pay. Their time isn't wasted because they're not shocked by the price. And frankly, I don't want to meet with, you know, 10 price shoppers for every one person that actually, knows what they want and they know what they're able to pay as well.
Absolutely. Quality never comes cheap, right? So I guess that's how you just price it all out. But you are one of those people who always had that thought clear. I want to have a virtual firm. Now, when you started, it was the pandemic, everything happened. But then when we talk about virtual, cloud has happened, everything has happened. But every business owner runs through this challenge that you start a business, then there is the point of scaling the business, especially in the first few years. And I gather that you're somebody who is a techno savvy person. You leverage automation a lot in incredible ways. So
Mhm.
could you share some examples about how you leveraged automation in helping you scale your firm over the years?
Yeah, so there's kind of two main ways that I use automation, and that one of it is before the client relationship even starts, and then another big part of it is with tax returns as well. You may not think it's that automated for the tax prep process, but I can break those two things down what I do right now. So my new client intake process is pretty much all automated to where uh, it puts the right people in front of me, a scheduled meeting essentially, without me having to ever think about, you know, is this person a good fit or not? And so I use this software called type form, which allows you to create logic trees and logic branches on depending on how clients answer these certain questions that I have, and it'll kick them out essentially. If it's like a no-go, like are you a C corp? If they say they have a C corp to prepare, it's automatic. Like, sorry. Are you
Yeah.
in Texas? No. Sorry. So,
Yeah.
do you plan on moving to Texas in the next year? Yes. Okay, you can come in. But if not, sorry. So there's lots of hard walls that, filter them out. And then once they get to the end, if they get to the end, then it says we'll contact you soon. What happens is those answers are shot into a software called Airtable. It's like a database software, and from there it scores all their answers. And if they meet certain parameters, it'll send them an email saying, "Hey, thanks for scheduling the meeting. It seems like you may be a good fit. Here's a link to meet with us." Or it'll say like, "Hey, sorry, doesn't look like we're a good fit. I
Yeah.
appreciate your time." So it pretty much makes it to where I don't have to put any emotion or thought into should I work with them or not, because doing that over and over and over again, especially if you're growing, is a big mental lift. It takes a lot of mental energy to to invest in something like, all right, based off their answers, do I want to work with them or do I not want to work with them? So I kind of predetermined, do I want to work with them or not ahead of time, and the software does it all for me. Now, there could be some great clients that I miss because of that. The thing is, I'm okay with that. There's
I was actually
plenty.
coming to that.
What was that?
I was actually coming to that. I don't know, that could be a possibility. You could have missed that, but go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm all ears.
Yeah, so I understand that I could be missing out on a lot of good business, and that's just something I'm okay with, because the amount of work that's coming in is the amount of work that I want to come in. I control the flow essentially of how much work is coming in, and I do that primarily by pricing, but it's also uh, yeah, it's a great way to automate the new client side versus meeting with everybody.
Yeah.
Meeting with
Yeah.
everybody. That just sounds crazy. I used to do that. I don't
Mhm.
anymore because I was like, I'm tired of this. And I also charge for new client meetings. That's something else that helps filter out a
Yeah.
lot of clients. That's something that I think is revolutionary for an accounting firm. There are some that do that. I was actually
Mhm.
inspired by another professional, another CPA firm who does
Uh-huh.
that, and I was like, yes, that makes so much sense why you charge for that first meeting.
Yeah.
I reconcile it because I review your past two tax returns.
Oh,
So I will be able to speak onto those returns like, oh, here's something that it looks like you may have missed, and you can actually amend this and you get a bunch of money back. I just
yeah.
paid for myself essentially,
Yeah.
with a small fee that they paid to meet with me. Or it could be like, hey, we need to fix this coming year because you actually like completely did this wrong. So it's a lot of good value. Or maybe I'm not the person that fixes, but maybe they go and fix it. So I provide value. Also answer any quick questions they may have during the meeting. And so we're always doing that probably for free anyways. So
Yeah.
I'm charging for that essentially. And it's a 40-minute meeting. Right now, it's only $150 to meet with me. I don't credit it back if they become a client. I used to, but then I was like, this seems like a completely different service than like a tax prep or bookkeeping service. What I'm doing over here for these new potential clients is not related to me actually preparing the return. I'm providing a separate service and value essentially. Uh, so I'm going to charge for that. And it doesn't impact how many clients are coming in, because I actually have a lot of new client meetings every year. That's just the right amount for me, it seems like.
No, absolutely. Look, at the end of the day, there's just 24 hours in a day that we have. And out of those 24 hours, probably one third of that is going to be spent in, or maybe like more than one third is going to be spent in all the other activities, or two-thirds of it. We only have like one third of the day left for the actual 8 hours left for actually contributing to the profession and getting the work done. So, you know, as it said, time is money, right? So if
Mhm.
somebody's going to be booking a call with you, even if they do not become the client, you're going to be investing those 40 minutes or 45 minutes and actually putting in your years of experience and into place, and you're going to be advising them on how this can be done better or how what is the way forward.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you're charging for your, if not becoming a client, there is also a charge to the advice that you give, because
Mm-hmm.
that aids into, that's why it's you, that's why you are a CPA. Otherwise they could have just gone, I mean, people would just be asking, I don't know, Chat GPT or Google and be done with it, but they're not doing it, right? So yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. It makes
Mm-hmm.
perfect sense. I guess it also aids in because, during the tax season, uh, I mean, I heard that, there were, when things started, people will be, oh, don't worry about your tax, we'll first get the returns filed and everything, and then they receive a bill wherein, this is what you gotta pay me, and that kind of creates like a cash flow problem as well, because you have your receivables because you're expecting that amount to come in, but then people are like, hey, you charged me a lot. At least you should have told me that this is what I'm gonna be getting into. But when you're being very transparent about that pricing, and when you know this is what it is, this is what's gonna charge, and especially that proper process of your onboarding wherein you're
Mm-hmm.
vetting all those people, you are also clear, because CPA as a profession is not just somebody who does tax, and tax itself is very complicated. There are
Mm-hmm.
s- there are some people who specialize in interstate, those who specialize in state level, those who specialize in just C corps, or those who just specialize in high net worth individuals. So I guess what you've created is you've created this beautiful onboarding system through which you're able to vet around and get just the type of clients wherein you hold that expertise and you're able to guide them correctly, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yep. And I guess, that's where we come into the problem that a lot of people face during tax season. Every time there's a tax season, everybody's like, oh, it's stressful. Every tax
Mm-hmm.
season, everybody's stressful. And there's always this point where, everybody wants to know how can they make this tax season stress free. And because tax season is infamous, it's infamous for being chaotic, overwhelming, but you've taken a different approach. So from your experience of working with the other firms as well as your existing firm, what are the big stressors for firm owners during tax season, and how can they be mitigated to keep the tax season tax? Could you shed some light on that?
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.
Yeah, I try to make every tax season better from the previous year. So if something big isn't changing, that means I've built the perfect firm. However, I haven't done that yet. I'm working towards it. I can't just do it after 1 year. It's kind of a step by step basis. Year by year, it's improving tremendously. And if you watch my yearly videos over the last 4 years, you can tell that I'm working less every year, but I'm also making more money. Uh,
Mhm.
it's it's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
So what what my advice is, or like how I do that, how I'm making each year better than the last, I'm making it less stressful, uh, is there's a lot of things that I do. One is get the right software when it comes to tax prep. Kind of what I alluded to. There's a little bit of automation that I use when it comes to
Yes.
tax prep, where the software that I use is able to OCR all the tax forms and then import it into the software, so I don't have to manually key stuff in, or my employee doesn't have to manually key in all the information. So that takes out a ton of time because you don't accidentally miss a number or mistype a number, and then you have to spend an hour trying to fix your mistake because you hand keyed it incorrectly. The software pays for itself through the efficiencies that you gain, and it helps you be more accurate and detailed and be able to focus on better type of work or higher value type of work. So having a really good software is good. I pay a lot in software costs. Like if you watch my yearly videos, it's like the biggest thing that stands out to people, and people are like, "How? What are you paying for. And it has to do with the combination of software that I use to be able to be more efficient. I don't have to use it, but what it does is it helps keep me sane. If I didn't
Right.
have that software, I would probably be a lot more inefficient and spend more time on returns, and also I would hate working. So all those things are mostly solved with really good software. Uh, let's see, I try to create limits and boundaries when it comes to clients, and
Yep.
so uh, depending on my capacity, I'll completely shut off new client meetings for for a time, for a couple of months. Now that I have an employee, I'm able to delegate a lot of tax prep to him, and so I'm more open to meet with clients because of that, and I can bring them on. I also, um, there's something called information deadlines. I'm sure a lot of people do this. Information deadlines are great to an extent. However, with human nature, they're drawn to a target. So you give someone a date to upload by, they're looking at that target and they're focusing on that target and they're gonna wait till that date. And so what happens is you get this like crazy wave of people that, give you everything that they have on that date. And all of a sudden you have 30 plus clients now that you have to work on it all at the same time. And then it takes you, well, takes me like weeks before you can kind of process all of those returns through or through the first level of prep work and then get open items for them. And you're still working a ton of hours. But the only thing that that deadline solves is like, okay, if you're really late, they're not getting prepared on time, they're being extended. But that deadline again creates that huge rush to where you're still working so much in a compressed amount of time now, depending on how you word, your policies on information deadlines. So you can be like, upload by this date, we'll prepare your return on time. That's dangerous. I've learned that the hard way. I'm sure a lot of people feel this as well. So this year, 2025, I'm implementing a new system thanks to experiences of other professionals that have done this before. That's the only reason why I'm doing it, because they've done it before and I've seen the success that they've had. This year, I'm scheduling out all my 1040s to where clients pick a date on the calendar where we begin tax prep. Now, that's not when they upload their information. They have to upload information a few days before that. And so we have to review their information and send them like, oh, don't forget this, this, and this. And then if everything has to be there by the date that they scheduled, essentially,
Nice.
then we can start prep. That's not when their information is due. It's when we can start prep. And if all the information isn't there, we're going to put you on a wait list and we're going to process the other people that are ready. And so what this does is allows me to basically even out how many returns I'm preparing each week. And so I can shift all those clients that uploaded at the last minute last year and shift them further up in the months in February, essentially early February. Today was actually, it's February 6th. So today was actually the first day where clients were able to select. So there's 3 clients that we're supposed to begin prep on today. And I say, we're going to do a 2-week turnaround time. I think we can do it in 1 week if everything is good to go and ready. But so that really is going to help with the stress. Like we have expectations now. Clients know what to expect. They know when they should upload stuff. They're probably more at ease because they're like, okay, I can worry about this on this date instead of worrying about it now and trying to do it as fast as I can. We're able to spread out our workload to where it's not like we're like a huge wave of like, okay, we got a lot of work and then we don't, and we got a lot of work. So it should be pretty constant. And the amount of slots that the amount of returns that I allow to be scheduled each week should equate to about 40 hours a week. I did some weird math. I don't know how it's actually going to work out, but I was like, all right, here's how many returns I prepared last year between January and April. Here's how many hours I worked because I track kind of like I track my hours from like a client admin and content creation standpoint. And so I was like, I can kind of see where my hours were last year and how many returns I prepared last year. I worked this many hours. I did some weird math. I don't even know if the math works out. It should be about this many returns per week that I can do to get me about 40 hours a week. So I was like, let's do it. And it ends up being not that many returns each week. Uh, so there's a decent amount of returns that are going to be prepared after April and May and June. And so clients know what to expect now. I've actually haven't had that much pushback. Like clients are like, man, do I have to pay extra for this extension? Like, do you charge me extra? And I was like, so I created a bunch of communications around that to just help their fears and alleviate all their fears of extending their return and what it means. And so there hasn't been that much pushback. And I think that in our minds, in our accountant mind, we think there's going to be pushback. That's why that's why this isn't widely spread. Like this isn't common practice. Only if, not that many firms do this because they're afraid of clients freaking out. Uh,
Yeah.
I don't work with that many clients, about 150, but no one has freaked out on me. They brought up concerns that are very valid, and that's perfectly fine. And so I was able to address those concerns. They're like, okay, cool, no worries. So it's been a success so far in that there hasn't been that much pushback. We'll see how the workload goes over the next
Yeah.
couple of months. Who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm excited to continue to share the journey.
No, absolutely. But I think the way you put it out, it's really interesting because I guess you addressed one stressor that getting everything just at one go because of the deadline concept. Like you're getting like a ton of work just coming in because you got that deadline. So because no, I mean, there are people who would be like, okay, I have a deadline on the 17th, but I'll probably give it today because I have everything today. Few people do that, great. But mostly, that that flow of things coming in all in one go, that kind of like creates that situation wherein people are working 20, 12, 14 hours every day because now they got to go through all that information, reconcile and everything. So I guess to strategize that, to not have a deadline for when to do it, but to have a deadline on like when we're going to be doing this together, and before that to proactively let everybody know. It also aids into keeping that communication very clear because you're setting the expectations right. you know you're you're making it very clear that this is what has happened, this is what you need to get me, and on this date this is what we're going to get it done. Because everybody has got that thing, because every firm owner is saying that the clients are constantly asking, I've given you everything, when do I get my return, when do I get my return? you know that's happening. Yeah, and
Yeah.
I guess you're solving that problem, because you're making it very clear, this date, this is when we do it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's
Yeah.
pretty.
And I think it'll help clients focus like, okay, he's said this, like this is my date. All of his attention is on me right now. They also know like if they don't respond within a certain amount of time, like within a reasonable amount of time, I'm going to be put on the wait list. So they know like, okay, I got to do this now versus, okay, I uploaded my stuff. I'll get to his answers in a month. No, that can't happen, or they'll potentially be extended.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's purely business, right? I mean, your time is important, their time is also important, and you want to ensure that both of them value each other's time. That's why you're putting this. That's why it's put this way. That give me by this date, we do it on this date, so they also know that when we are getting there, they are the ones getting that 100% attention of Logan Graf.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Yep.
That's the goal. That's kind of one of the benefits that I try to communicate of this new system. Like, hey, y'all are getting a better Logan during this time compared to me trying to work on 30 of y'all at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And together with all this, you mentioned that you have now got this time, you got this calculation in place about how much time am I going to be contributing towards this and that and everything. And between all this and all that awesome YouTube content that you create, you have now also created a community called Counter, right?
Hmm.
Let's talk about Counter. So the community you built for the firm owners. So what inspired you to start Counter, and what role does the community play in shaping the future of accounting? Go ahead.
Yeah, so Counter kind of originated from my YouTube channel. I create a lot of content about how I run my firm, how much money I make. People see the journey of a new firm owner essentially, and they're like, I want to do that. I want to start my own firm. It helps and encourages and inspires people to be an accountant or be a firm owner. And that's honestly the goal of my channel is just to help inspire the next generation of accountants. And so
Mhm.
uh, it created a lot of demand for me essentially in that I would get people in college or people fresh out of college or people that are working in firms are like, hey, Logan, I'd love to start my firm soon or in a couple of years. Can we meet and discuss how like what that looks like? And so I'd get all these requests for that and I'd just be like, I have a firm to run. I'm so sorry. I cannot help you because I can understand helping one person. Yes, I'll help one person. I'm getting if I was getting like one request a month, that I think that's doable. However, I was just getting multiple requests and sometimes in a week, and it's like I'm sorry if I meet with you, I have to meet with everybody else. I can't. I'm sorry, but maybe I will, maybe I can in the future. So stick around. And so that kind of was like, man, all this demand of people that want to start their own firm and they need advice and help. Uh, I was, I was in and currently still am in Jason Stat's Realize community. And that's kind of a similar vibe of it's with firm owners that are trying to, work together versus alone. And
Yeah.
so I was like, his is kind of for any firm level. I think it'd be really beneficial if I target the new firm owners or people that are about to start their own firm because they can directly relate to me and my content. And so I was like, I think I could start a community for these type of people and I can help everybody at once instead of, spending a lot of time one-on-one. So now I'm able to provide a lot of resources to these firm owners, new firm owners. And even if you've been running a firm for a long time, but you want to change your ways and try not to be a traditional public accounting firm, I still think we could be a good fit and counter.
Yeah.
So we're all about trying to create like a new wave of firm ownership, a new style of running firms, trying to run a firm like a business versus like a public accounting firm, which in my opinion, those are two different things.
Yeah. I mean, creating the new world order in the accounting space.
I hope so. We're trying, but it's hard, just because it's our nature to default to a lot of old public accounting styles of running businesses. It's what we know and it's kind of what our personality is drawn to, unfortunately. So I'm trying to like break that, break that mold and that tradition and help people see a different way. I don't want to say my way is the better way, but a different way.
Yeah, I mean that's good. In fact, you mentioned about I think you earlier in the podcast you talked about some book club or something during Counter. So I just wanted to know about that. In fact, if you could share a little bit more about the kind of support and resources that
hmm
Counter its members
Yeah.
could.
So right now we're doing a book club and we're going over, actually have it right next to me. It might be reversed. It's called The Four Conversations and it's by Blair Enns. He's like kind of a consultant for creative agencies.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of crossover into accounting firms, in my opinion. So it's really about it's a new model for selling expertise. So it's all about what we do. We sell our expertise. So every week we started this a few weeks ago. Every week we meet up and discuss a section of that book together in the context of running our firms. So they're all recorded. So if you want to join at a future time and you're like, I want to see what's up, well, we record all the sessions. I have notes from the book itself, so you have that to access. We have two guaranteed meetings every month, and they're both different in that one is with a firm owner or maybe a retired firm owner, and they're going to share something that is one thing kind of that made a big impact on how they run their firm. And so, as new firm owners, if you hear from an experienced person, like, okay, here's someone that's been there and done that. Now I get to learn that one thing that made a huge impact on their firm, and maybe I can adopt that as well or be aware of what not to do. So we have uh, our One Thing series with accounting firm professionals, firm owners. And then we have an outside expert series. So I want to bring in experts that aren't in the accounting industry that run their business really well and are able to teach us or share with us a way how they run their business really well, or maybe consult with others on how to run their business really well. And so basically help us to be a better business owner, maybe not a accounting firm owner, but a better business owner. And so there's kind of these two distinct different meetings that we have monthly. And of course, we're going to be offering other sessions during the month. We have deep dive sessions on specific topics like pricing and everything. We had a launch series of everything that you basically need to know when starting a firm. So as we grow and evolve as a community, there's just going to be more and more resources that are available to you, and the community is going to be more valuable. And we have over 260 members right now, so it's crazy how fast we've grown in a few months' time. And so I imagine we'll hopefully hit 300 members by the end of 2025, which blows my mind. And at that point, we may increase the pricing. So just because the more people, the more value, the more resources that I'm able to offer to the community. So the more resources that come to me and membership fees, the more I can give out in value, which raises the price. So it's kind of like this. It won't increase in price forever, but whoever joins now, their price never increases. Sorry, I'm selling it a little bit, but if you join
So,
now, it's better to join now than maybe in the future because the price will be higher. I know accountants are sticklers when it comes to pricing, okay? So they always want a deal.
hey, look, better to be transparent, right?
Yeah.
So that's exactly what we're doing, right? All right. Well, Logan, this has been an amazing conversation, filled with valuable insights. Before we wrap up, let me leave our listeners with a few key takeaways. Transparent pricing and automation can help scale a firm more efficiently. Tax season stresses can be reduced with proactive planning and clear communication. And community and collaboration are essential for modern accounting firms. So that's pretty much it. Well, Logan, before I let you go, where can our listeners learn more about Counter and connect with you?
Yeah, so I have a YouTube channel. You can just search Logan Graf or Logan Graf Tax. Uh, and that's a good way to find me. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I'm on X. It's at Logan Graf Tax as well. Sorry, it's been a while since I've looked at my handle. It might be Tax Telegraph, but anyway, so it's easy to find. I link everything together essentially. Counter is countercommunity.co, and that's my URL for the website if you want to check out Counter. And always feel free if you're like, hey, here's my situation. Am I a good fit? You can email me um, through through the website. I share my email and for Counter. So I always want us to be a good fit. I'm going to tell you if you're not. And so, um, yeah, I'm open to any questions about the community as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm sure you're going to be flooded with a lot of questions. I pray it's able to fit into your schedule and you're able to help with. So, but thank you, Logan. It's been I truly thank you for still making the time for having this during the tax season. I know you got to get to those 1040s and everything. So, once again, thank you for sharing your insights.
My pleasure.
Yep, absolutely. And to our listeners, don't forget to subscribe for more deep diving conversations with industry leaders. Until we see you next time, keep innovating in everything you do. Cheers.
Access latest and trending CPE courses with my CPE One Unlimited Access subscription. Subscribe now.